Okay.
Yeah, we're good. We're gone.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, and thank you so much for looking at this video. It was supposed to be a live, but I don't know, for some reason, we had some technical problems in order to be able to load the live video. So we're saving it now and we're going to post it, and we hope you like it very much. I am today with Yollana Shore. She's a wonderful coach and a healer. She works with leadership. We met through LinkedIn and we started a conversation. She has gone through some of my coachings and has suggested that I go through a healing method course that is called The Journey. So I'm really excited. I'm a lifelong learner, and learning something new for me is really exciting. So after meeting Yollana and experiencing her nature and her immense energy, and intuitive intelligence, I just felt this was the right move to learn something new from her. So we decided to create this event, this live event, to talk a bit more about what I'm going to expect as I go through the healing journey, and she's going to tell us more about that.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Alan. It's great to have this opportunity to share with you. So, well, would you like me to start with what you can
Well,
expect on the journey, or
what is it? Let's start by what is the journey? Let's
what
start
is
right
the
there.
journey? So, the journey is a healing method. It's developed by Brandon Bays. She was a master trainer for Tony Robbins for about 10 years prior to developing the journey. And she used to teach his living health seminars. So she was very much into mind body health, and she was living a very healthy lifestyle at the time. And then she had a tumor grow in her uterus, and it grew to the size of a basketball. So she was as if 5 months pregnant with this tumor. And so she had gone to the doctor, and they'd asked, said that she needed to have it removed. And she asked if she could have the option to try and heal it naturally, if there was some way that she could do that. And she was working with the doctors and negotiating a way to buy herself some time to give it a go. And she didn't know how, but she really just like made a prayer really that she would find a way. And she was guided to actually access the cell memory that was at the root cause of that particular illness that she was experiencing. And as a result, she healed from the illness in 6 weeks without drugs or surgery. And then she went on to look for how she could then share with others this technique, how others could experience what she'd experienced. And she was basing it on research that Deepak Chopra was doing at the time. This was before he was as well known as he is today, but he was still working as a medical doctor in medical research. And he had studied not the what medicine usually studies, like the symptoms of disease, what makes us sick. Instead, he was focusing on what makes us healthy, which was kind of a radical thing to focus on at that time. And he'd found that people who had spontaneous healing events like Brandon had two things in common. And one is that they had somehow gotten access to that space, that consciousness, that is a more expanded state than the everyday reality that most of us live in. So some people called that God, or called it like a spiritual experience. Some people called it a universal intelligence. But there was some sense of a moment of presence or a transcendental moment where they were not experiencing themselves as limited to just their body or their personal identity, but a part of a greater force. And then the other thing that happened was they had resolved and released some traumatic memory from the past. And so I mentioned the word cellular memory. That was when Chopra had suggested this idea that there were cell memories that are stored in the cells. And since then, there's been a whole lot of research that has, in different ways, supported that theory that, you know, when we have a traumatic experience, that it actually stores in our body. So even if we've moved on and we've kind of forgotten about that incident, the body remembers. There's a book that has that title, The Body Keeps the Score. You know, our bodies remember what they've been through. And if we haven't resolved or integrated that experience, the body hangs on to it for us until we can or do. So that's a
And
bit
the
of background.
cortisol then has the effect for the illness to show up.
Right, exactly. And so that's the background that leads to, you know, the journey. What Brandon was able to develop was a method for people to reliably experience those two things. One, that access to your super consciousness, a greater part of yourself, or I think what you call the quantic awareness, you know, this infinite intelligence, the infinite presence that we are all part of, and that life, you know, it imbues all of life. And also to then get direct access to the memory that is at the root cause of the physical illness. And ultimately, you know, the journey has been used because she wrote a book about it. It became a New York Times bestseller. It's, you know, sold over 2 million, I think, definitely over 1 million copies worldwide. It's been translated into 36 languages. So this is really like
It's
been
become something big
around.
all around the world.
It's been used and it's been working. So, you
How
know,
long have you been presenting it?
for me, I became a journey practitioner when I was 20, and I'm 42 now. So I've been
Wow.
involved with the journey for over 20 years. And the beginning of last year, so just over about 18 months ago, I started presenting for the journey for Australasia.
Wow. How did you get involved in the journey, Yollana?
My own story, someone handed me a book about the journey when I was in Holland. And I was randomly, I was house sitting a Sufi temple in Holland with my partner at the time. And the book was on the coffee table. So I read it while I was there. And shortly after that, my partner and I became pregnant. It was unexpected. And we cut short our travel overseas and came home to Australia. And shortly after we came back, I had a miscarriage. And so my life had been like heading in one direction, and then suddenly it was heading in another, like not even heading in another. I had a blank slate really, where I'd been traveling, and then I'd stopped the travel, and I had this whole family life ahead of me. And then I just had this, I didn't have that anymore. I was open really. And I also had quite a powerful experience during the miscarriage, because when I'd arrived at the hospital, they said, you will probably miscarry tonight, you know, because my water had broke and I was early. And I'd already read the journey book, and I was like, oh, I'm just staying open. You never know, anything could heal, you know. And I ended up not miscarrying for a month. And so I was in this place of in between, you know, where I didn't, it's like I was between birth and death, really. I was just, and I didn't go anywhere. I was in the hospital.
Your baby was still alive.
The baby was still alive. It was still in the body. There was a small chance it would live and survive. And yeah, that experience wasn't exactly traumatic for me. It was very centering. I think sometimes when we have challenging experiences, we either go out to the edges where we're all very stressed, or we go right to the center and you get very still. And by some kind of grace, I went right to
What
the
did you connect with that allowed you to stay in that place, like really connected, even if it's an uncertain place?
yeah.
And in my experience, usually
It was
we're
the
able to
present
connect to
moment.
uncertainty
It was the
when we're in
present
the
moment,
present, when there's a
because I
meaning.
couldn't imagine the future with my family anymore, because this becoming a mother was taken away. And so I couldn't imagine that future of becoming a mother, but I couldn't imagine a future where I wasn't a mother either, because the baby was still there. So I had no future there. And in the past wasn't really relevant because I wasn't like, in the past, I wasn't a mother and I wasn't pregnant and I was traveling and I wasn't in Australia. Like, it was all nothing to do with where I was now. So I became very present and I had the support of my family. So I didn't have, I could just focus on being in each
Or
moment.
about the purpose of what you're going through right now.
Yeah. And I guess I was hoping to heal. And then through the process, it came to a moment where I finally realized, I mean, I was very young too. I was 20, and I came to the moment of realizing that the baby could survive, but it would have a very challenged life physically. Like, it would have to, there would be a lot of it would need steroids and a lot of intervention to support it. And I guess that wasn't what I imagined for myself and my life. And it's not that I consciously did this, but around the time I realized that, I had could say a spiritual experience. I don't know. I had a moment where just one morning I woke up and I felt this presence that was so delicate. It was like, the only way I could describe it, it was like angels' wings or something, or fairy bells. it was both the most delicate energy I've ever felt and also the most powerful at the same time. And I had the sense, I think maybe this baby is going to die now. That morning, I think, and then that evening, yeah, I gave birth to the baby, and actually she took a few breaths, and then she died, and that was the end of that chapter, really. But it had been a whole month that I had been just present with that in between birth and death space.
Wow. That
Yeah,
must have been impactful.
it was a like stop you in your tracks and start fresh kind of moment. And amazingly, I went to Byron Bay to stay with some friends. My partner and I went there to recover because we lived in Brisbane at the time. And then Brandon Bays was giving an intro talk about the journey that week and in Byron. And so I went and I was really moved by it. And
What
yeah.
impact did the journey have in you after this experience? What outcome were you looking for, or what outcome came out of it? What should I expect? I'm going to have it this coming weekend, and I'm excited. And I want to know,
Two
like,
different questions. For me at the time, I was looking for purpose in a way. Like I was looking for what's next in my life. I had the open slate. And this really resonated with me. And one of the things that resonated was Brandon, for the journey, she uses the metaphor of diamond, that we're all born as this pristine diamond, this purity. And then through life, we have, you know, basically shit happens. Like we
to be
have
unlearned?
life events happen, and it can be like each time we experience a challenge in life, a layer of shutdown. It's like we cover over our light. We become, we're
Hard to hold on to things to have certainty, and we tend to give our certainty to our experience instead of the moment, basically. So we
yeah,
lose
well, we might,
that perception of the moment.
it's like if you think of like if you're at school and you tried to go out with someone and they didn't want to go out with you, and it's like you feel that disappointment and you don't know what to do with that emotion of disappointment, so you just shut it down,
And
you
then you
know.
generalize and you don't want to ask anyone out because you don't want to experience it again. Or
Right,
you
right.
experience it every time you think about it.
Right, exactly. Or maybe you try some, there's something else, like, so because I already had, I mean, that shutdown actually didn't happen for me that moment when I went through the miscarriage, but I'd certainly experienced it in other areas of my life. And it's a very natural human thing to do, it's one of the ways we can respond to life is we shut down. And then it's like we put a polished veneer over all the stuff and say, I'm confident, I'm happy, or this is who I am, and we present ourselves to the world. And and the way Brandon jokes about, she says, and we wonder why people think we're full of shit. Because we kind of are. Like, we got all this stuff
I
that
call
we
that,
locked
I
away.
can understand it from a perspective. I call that place that we know that nobody else knows, right?
Right.
Still hold on to that experience, but sometimes somehow we make sense of it by creating a coping mechanism, and then that coping mechanism creates a story on top of it,
Yes.
right, which still feeds an identity that holds on to that moment. And it's not
Yeah,
until we're able to let go of that identity that we feel free and healed.
exactly.
Imagine that is like the whole philosophy behind it, and that's really
Exactly.
what resonates with what I do so much.
Yes, your work on the journey, it resonates a lot. So, the metaphor of this diamond is like the journey is a process of cracking through the layers, getting to the light that is at the center, and then peeling back. And it's one at a time. It doesn't happen all at once, but it's like peeling back the layers of the lampshades that we've put over our light, or the layers of shutdown that we've, it's like peeling back the onion skin, as some people say, but really coming to live from the authenticity, the truth, the wholeness, the light, and the freedom that you are. And
What
so,
would, sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead, go ahead.
well, and so that is essentially what the journey does. That's what the process is about.
Fantastic. What would you say to a seeker, someone that's seeking healing, right?
If they're
How
interested in the journey, I would say it's a beautiful process to support that. Both if you're seeking healing, and also if you're seeking sort of a purpose or spiritual connection or meaning. Not that the journey gives you that meaning, but that the journey gives you a tool to access the meaning that is inside of yourself, that it gives you a way to access your own light, your own truth, your own wisdom, your own freedom. It's a powerful tool for that. And for someone who's seeking healing, it's the same thing, is that the journey gives you tools that you can use to, as I said, to connect with the trauma or the cell memories that are there in a safe way, to empty out and come to a place of forgiveness around issues that you've been carrying from the past, some of which you may not even realize you're carrying, but are still affecting you. And then to resource yourself for how you want to be in the future. So it's a very powerful process. And physically, what can happen is when we clear out the emotional root cause that is blocking us, it's not that the journey causes the healing. It's that healing is a natural instinct. It's a natural process of our bodies. So if you think about, like, if you cut your hand, it heals. The body goes about a healing process. That's what it does. And in a similar way, often our body wants to heal, but there are those old cell memories or that trauma that's there creates stress or blockages in the healing system. It stops that physical body from going about the healing process. So when we clear out the root cause, it really supports that healing on the physical level as well. And then alongside of whatever else we're doing, nutrition wise, diet wise, whatever else it is, the journey, we think of it as an integrative medicine process. It's not here to stop or get in the way of someone else's healing journey, or the support that they have from, like, if they're working with the medical system, it's great. It's so
good way
yeah,
to be supported by, right?
it's complementary. It's very complementary. And we've seen extraordinary healings happen. Like, one that I often think of, I mean, I've heard so many stories because, of course, Brandon, tells so many, because she's been teaching it so many places. But one that I particularly remember was I was working with a woman who had Parkinson's disease, and she was about 80 years old. And she came to one of our workshops, and I was assigned as a practitioner to work with her. And she her daughter had actually brought her to the workshop, and she had that Parkinson's shuffle. Do you know what I mean? Where they can't actually take very big steps. They have to take small steps because the way their brain is wiring is, you know, causing all the shakes and the little tiny shuffling steps. And so we just, you know, never know where a journey process will lead, but we went through the journey process, and we she actually went to some memories of when she was at school, and she was at a school with nuns, and how she'd had an affinity for Jesus. Like, she felt a sense of sort of that love or light connected with Jesus in some way, but she had really been told, like, had it drilled into her about sin and fear and all of these stories from the nuns, and it had caused that shutdown to happen. It had caused this sense of fear to really become rooted inside of her. And so we went through the process, and she reconnected with her own truth about that, and the sense of light and healing and love that's available for her in her own intuitive connection with Jesus, not through that story of fear. And then the process finished, and she sat there for a little while, and she said, "I feel so tingly." And, you know, I could feel there was this enormous energy around us and this tingling happening in her brain. Literally, she was saying, "I feel all tingly up here." and and then she finished the process, and you know, she needed to go to the bathroom, and I said, "Well, you know, it's over that way." And she got up, and her daughter came to help her walk to the bathroom, and then she took some steps. And she was, if you've ever seen a 2-year-old when they're learning to walk and they take these massive, sort of wobbly but massive steps, she
Mhm.
started strolling to the bathroom in these big steps. And I realized as I was watching her go that that tingling, like, her brain had literally been rewiring itself in front of me, and moments later she'd had a different capacity to walk become available to her. And it
Wow.
was such a, yeah, such a moment of, as I said, like, our
But
body
it's almost instant. It's like almost instantaneous, the process, the healing process.
in that case, because I mean, it depends on what's happening in that case, because the nerve, her nervous system was able to rewire itself in the moment.
Mhm.
Sometimes with cellular healing, like in Brandon's case, it took 6 weeks, which is about the time that it takes for the cells in the uterus lining to regenerate. So the
Mhm.
old uterus lining cells were clearing out, and the new ones were coming in. And, you know, then she, at the end of that, had a healthy, like, extremely healthy uterus. Um, so
Wow,
yeah, it's sort of dependent on different factors. Yeah.
that is amazing.
Yeah.
And from a perspective of a healer, a practitioner,
Right.
what what like, for example, myself, that I'm
Uh-huh.
going to be having this weekend. What can I expect? What should I look for? What would you suggest I use as a purpose? For me, if I share it, when you shared with me the web page, and I looked through it, I'm always curious to learn something new and to integrate into my practice to serve my
Yeah.
clients. So that was the first thing that opened up. And of course, after feeling your energy and your connection, that was something that gave me a reference to how strong this can be. And I
Yes.
felt a natural pull to it.
Yeah.
But also, like any other human being, not because we're healers, we're super beings, or because we have a quantic awareness, we're super beings. And either
Yeah.
I also have things to heal, right?
Yes.
Always.
Yeah.
We're always evolving into our own story, right? So, what as a healer that I have already a certain notion of it, what would you suggest? Like, if there's other healers listening to this, what would
Yes.
you
Sure.
suggest?
Yeah. So the Journey Intensive Weekend, to give the context, it's a 3-day weekend. We teach the emotional journey process on the Saturday. We teach the physical journey process on the Sunday, and on the Monday we have an advanced skills day, which is kind of integrating everything we've learned. We like people to come for the full 3 days, although there is an option to watch the Monday as on a replay if someone really can't get that Monday off work. But the way that we teach it, you'll learn the theory of the journey. So it'll give you some extra information about the approach, but also just generally, about mind body healing and, different little bits of research or metaphors or ways of talking about the healing process, as I've been doing today. And then we actually undergo the journey process. So we go into breakout rooms. We're supported by journey practitioners. So we have a team of journey practitioners who are there to help everybody. And you'll be given a journey script. So when you're working with a partner, you'll take them through the journey process and they'll take you through it. And that is both a way of learning the method and also experiencing and receiving the method. So once you learn the process, we encourage you to go ahead and use it with family and friends after just one weekend, because we've had people even just read the book, and the journey script is also in the back of the journey book, and who've then written in from, Zimbabwe or something, saying like, we had this amazing healing, or one of my friends who became a journey practitioner, she'd had this happen where her son had suffered a stroke at age 7. So he was in a coma for a number of days, I think, could have been a couple of weeks. And she'd been reading the script to him while he was asleep, and then he'd had a full recovery where they hadn't expected that, but nothing at all, neurologically affected after having this massive stroke as a child. So it's in the book. You can get the script, I guess I'm getting to. I went off track there, but you have the script. So you learn the process. We don't encourage people to then use the process in their practice and charge money for it if they haven't done a full journey practitioner training, which is a year-long training. It's a certification, so you go deeper into it. But I think that you would find elements of the process, if you already have a modality that you use, that it's like you would find it very inspiring. And for yourself, you can come in with any intention that you like. If there's a particular area of your life, emotionally, behaviorally, physically, that you would like, kind of like to set that intention or put out a prayer that is somehow what you're guided to work on or heal during the intensive weekend. And sometimes you go straight there, and sometimes, our body has its own wisdom, and it will,
We're guided by
we're guided by what is really needed to happen. So you can also go with an open mind and just trust that, whatever happens, it's going to be a healing and empowering experience. And yeah, just let yourself be guided.
That is fantastic. I am really, really excited.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to have you there. It's going to be amazing.
Thank you so much. This is fantastic. Everything you just shared right now resonates a lot with the way I think about healing, the way I feel, and the way I also perform healing with my clients.
Yes.
So I am looking forward to complementing what I know and being completely open to a new experience.
Yeah.
And see how that goes. And of course, afterwards, we'll do another video if you're open to it, right?
Yeah.
And I will be able to share my experience and what was that like.
Yes, that'd be amazing.
I believe that the sun shines for everyone, right? And we can all experience different modalities of healing, right? Until we find what resonates with us.
Yes.
So I like to promote the purpose of what I do is really helping as much people as possible, whether it be through me, through other healers, or through other methods. Whichever way it is, it just contributes to an open-hearted world, really.
Yes. Well, you have shared with me that you yourself have had an experience of healing that is like beyond what a lot of people could conceive of for themselves. And, like Brandon, who had that experience, it's like it opens us to this possibility, really. Like, the most important thing, I think, at the core, and what we're both working towards, is this realization that healing is possible, just that our bodies are capable of healing. As I said, they want to heal, and that we have this ability to live from a place of connection with our own wisdom, our freedom, our truth, our joy, our light, our potential. I mean, there's we talk about 3 areas, like healing, thriving, and awakening, and that the journey can support with all of those, because it can support us with healing the issues that we've come with or developed over life, can support us to thrive and really live to our full potential, and also to awaken to the truth of who we are. And that doesn't matter if you are a religious person, or you have a particular tradition, or if you're actually like atheist or scientific or whatever. Like, it's not really about any of that. It's just about what works, and about that true connection with yourself. So
And what I find also amazing, as you were explaining, is also the emotional connection to it, right? In the Western world, or the more linear thinking about emotions, is like, don't become emotional, don't follow your emotions. It's like, go to what you think, believe in what you're thinking. And then we find that the withholding emotions, or rejecting feeling emotions, or reacting to our emotional perception itself, is what ends up causing a lot of these problems. And then we find also that it is the power of emotions that can heal us as well.
100%. That's
So,
right.
and there's a linear logic to that,
Yeah.
right? So, and that's why also I resonated very much with this. As you know, my method is called the emotional perspective.
Right.
And it's how we choose to give perspective to the stories, that the emotional perspective of the stories that we tell ourselves, that really create a reality that we're dealing with, apart from the present reality. And that is how we relate to the present reality, through those stories. Or we just are able to let go of the stories that put that division between ourselves and the connection to the present, right?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Like, you've probably shared or heard this, research that when we're fully present with an emotion, it won't last longer than 60, maybe 90 seconds.
At the most, exactly.
And right. And then it shifts, it changes. So, like, I often talk about our emotional body, it's like a river. It's constantly refreshing itself. And so we're going through our day, we feel curious, and it's like into the river of life. And then we feel a bit annoyed at something, and it flows into the river. And then we're feeling like excited, and that's into the river. And it's also giving us feedback about our experience. So, we're feeling a little frustrated, and it's giving us a feedback that something is not how we'd like it, or it's giving us the feedback that maybe we feel angry, and it's like, oh, that's some violation has occurred, or a boundary is being crossed. Like, so our emotional intelligence is active all this time, and it's in this constant flow and shift and change all the time. And then when we have those shutdowns, it's like we collapse around the emotion, and we push it under we sweep it under the carpet, we push it, lock it in the cupboard. And that's when we find, like it starts knocking, trying to get out. And so then we get these chronic emotional experience, like depression, or like, oh, I'm just angry all the time.
The constant reaction
I
to not
always feel
wanting to feel
anxious.
that emotion, right?
Right. There's this it's like the emotion is trying to get our attention, is trying to be let out of the cupboard. And so instead of lasting for 90 seconds, it just keeps coming up, like on repeat. And so, yeah, like your healing method, it's like the journey is a way of opening that door, and you just let it out. You just let it out. And it doesn't even require the act of letting it out doesn't require even what do you call it? Like emoting. Like, you don't have to scream and cry.
It's not something dramatic. Yeah, exactly.
It does, it's not, catharsis is not necessary. It's just presence is what's necessary. And I feel like this is a massive key for whole of society, is we're culturally conditioned to shut these emotions down, and that they're not safe, or it's not good to feel the emotion, and it's actually
It
the
has to be,
opposite.
has to do with the instability that we get from identifying with it, with emotions, right? It's like whenever we identify with our body and we feel we are our body, like our identity is our body,
Yes,
we become very wary of our body that we could get hurt. We become so fragile,
right.
right? Whenever we identify with our intellect, we become unsure. It's like we're unsure of everything. We want to question everything and we can't take action, right?
Yes,
Then I believe it's the same thing when we identify with emotions.
yes,
Like we believe we are those emotions, therefore we are trapped into being that emotion or not being that emotion. But because we give it our identity, we don't really have it. We shut ourselves from having a choice. Therefore, we start creating a coping mechanism to that which we don't want to feel, right? And that creates a story around it to be able to cope with the reaction of what we are feeling, but we don't want to feel.
right. Exactly.
And that at the end is what causes, well, that is the emotional don't become emotional part, right? That then turns into a lesson that is signaled to our amygdala, and then we have the reactions of the generalized reactions like, oh, watch out for this, it looks the same. Oh, watch out for that, it looks the same. And then we are like moving around the world assuming or judging our reality, and
Yeah,
that's really keeping us away from the present.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the just that one switch of belief to know that the emotions are a healthy expression, and that it's safe to feel them, to be present with them, and to let them come and to let them go, is it's actually a massive key to a good and healthy life.
I completely agree. I believe the way I feel emotions, or the way I convey the feeling of emotions, is like the true connection to everything. It's what really connects us. Whenever we feel connected to what we're doing or connected to someone else, is because there's an emotion that gives us that meaning, that gives us that certainty that we're going through that moment of connection.
Yeah.
Right. And sometimes we look for an explanation or a justification for it, but no matter what we come up with our intellect, we, there's not enough that we can trust to become as sure of something as when we feel it. You know,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
becoming able to trust what we feel, that I believe is what gives us that sense of presence.
Yeah. Yeah, and to just yeah, be open to it, and not, as you said, let if we're not identified with it, then the emotions can come and they can go, and they're not, it's almost not our business. Like we don't have to, we can stop suppressing them, and then that takes the load off the body, which is, holding on to all these emotions and all these memories, or these traumas. It's actually, it's the release valve, on the pressures. And so especially for people who are feeling stressed in life, or feeling like they're carrying a lot, this kind of work is really powerful, because it gives that release valve.
So it's basically like the opposite of what you want to happen is what happens, right? You say, I don't want to become so emotional. So you hold on to the emotion and you become even more emotional.
Yeah, but you may not look it from the outside. You may just look rigid and, you know, tired, or I don't know, just
Your reactions do
heavy.
show emotion,
Yeah,
right? So it feels
yeah.
heavier, and you start reacting to whatever is happening because of that emotion that you're holding.
Right. No, it's true. Yeah, and you become more reactive. Yeah.
That sense. And then when we're actually able to let go of emotions, just like we give purpose to our body or we give purpose to our intellect, then we can start even giving purpose to our emotions. And that's when things become really interesting in my
Right.
findings. But we can talk about that also in another video. But I'm really interested in seeing what I will find out. through the journey.
Yeah, well, as we've said, I think a lot of it will already resonate with you because, you know, there's so much a natural fit between your philosophy and the journey's philosophy. And I believe that the reason for that is because these are universal principles, you know, they're simply what works. And so it'll be a beautiful way to learn and refine and, yeah, just as you said, to share and develop that.
And what you just mentioned, I think, is a beautiful conclusion.
Mm,
You know, everything is available and possible to us. And it's like religion. You know, we all talk about religion, like the main principle of religion is treat the others as you'd like to be treated. Said in different ways, but the meaning of it is still the same, right?
right.
And then we just battle about who said it which way, and we find it so different. But it all comes to the basic principles, right? And that's also what I love about quantic awareness and why I just throw myself into it, if you want to call it, and I have a pull towards it because it's important to understand that the principles are there,
Right.
right? No matter how people interpret those principles, it's just important that we allow ourselves to be guided by our intuition, right? Because our intuition, our intellect, our emotions know where we should be guided for our best interest. Is when we believe we know more than that is in our nature, right? That we sometimes astray from what's possible and available.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love showing this point specifically what we just got to, because it shows that it's available, basically. Through
Yeah.
different ways, it's always available, whether it be through the journey, whether it be what I'm doing, the emotional perspective, and so many other ways that are out there, right? So it's
Yeah.
just
And I think what you've
can
also
be open to it.
pointed to is that you can use your intuition like you did, where you saw, this resonates, I'd like to go here, you know, I'd like to see what I discover. So you can use your intuition to feel if something's right for you. And for people who are watching, and if they're feeling like, is the journey right for me, you know, you can just check your body and check, like, is there a pull, a sense of openness, a sense of a yes here. And you know, if there is, the other thing I would just say about it is that our, you know, prices for these programs are so ridiculously affordable for what you get over the weekend. Like, it's just um yeah, it's just, you know, they made it really available because we want this healing work to be available to everyone. So it's very easy to get involved, to join in, to have the experience of the weekend, to receive like 3 whole sessions of healing, you know, plus learning the whole process over a weekend. So yeah, it's time well spent.
That is fantastic. Thank you so much, Yollana, for sharing all of this information. If someone becomes interested after listening to this video, I believe they can leave a message below this video to
Yeah, you can
contact you
leave a
directly.
message below this video. You can go to the website, thejourney.com, and see the events. And we have events all around the world. So in Australia, our next Journey Intensive is coming up on the 29th of April. And if you're in the Australasian time zone, you can also email Tina, Tina, at thejourney.com for information. We'll pop all the links. Yeah, we'll pop all the links into this, where we are, into this post. That's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Yollana. This is wonderful for everyone that is here that has listened to this video. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We hope that the information that was shared today really makes a difference for you or someone that you know that could use this. And this is available and it's possible.
Yeah.
So yeah, reach out. Thank
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alan.
you very much, Yollana.